Yo, how's it going everybody? He Got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're kind of bringing back the tradition of doing one of the last Halloween reviews a week late, but we are looking at the expansion to one of my favorite horror FPS games. This one flew under the radar for me for a while since it isn't mentioned nearly as much as the base games in the series, yet it arguably has one of the best campaigns in the series. We're checking out F.E.A.R Files, developed by Day One and TimeGate Studios and published by Sierra Entertainment, released to the Xbox 360 in 2007. While both expansions, Perseus Mandate and Extraction Point, aren't considered canon by Monolith Productions, both deliver unique stories running alongside the original game. These were also released separately on the PC in 2006 and 2007, but exclusively appear on the 360 as a package. Before banging on too much more though, let's check out the mission briefs. In Extraction Point, you're aboard the helicopter that escapes after the explosion of the origin facility of the first game, which crashes a few clicks away. You then make your way to the new Extraction Point to get a lift out of the zone while trying to avoid the remaining replica forces that are partially deactivated since capturing Paxton Fettel. Once they reanimate, it becomes a mission to regroup with Jin and Holiday to get to the rendezvous point in one piece. In the Perseus Mandate, you're part of a second F.E.A.R team being sent into the Armacam Technology Corporation facility on a search and destroy mission. You're tasked with getting in to dismantle the mercenary faction known as the Nightcrawlers and recovering data, which of course goes completely sideways. You become separated from the team, eventually succumbing to the grips of madness as the paranormal begin picking your squad off one by one. As signs of life disappear throughout the city, the goal is data collection at whatever cost. Gameplay wise, you've got an FPS horror hybrid that fuses blistering gunplay and the Japanese horror tropes much like the first entry. You have all the same abilities as the original game, like reflex time and a dropkick that would make the Lee brothers jealous. You have new and returning explosives like the grenades, mines, and automated turrets at your disposal. Extraction Point is the action-packed expansion of the two, wasting no time before getting right into hectic encounters and unraveling how the replicas came back after defeating their leader. Perseus Mandate begins as a squad shooter of sorts before breaking your team up eventually. While the mechanics are identical to the first F.E.A.R, there are a few new weapons like the Type 12 laser cannon, Mod 3 multiple missile launcher, LP4 lightning gun, the MP50 repeating cannon, and a remodel to the ASP assault rifle. The new weapons put in work, especially that missile launcher. Aside from some new guns to stand on business, some new scares in a similar vein to F.E.A.R are also included. They might not hit all the same heights as the original, but know there are some good ones in there. As you move through each interval, you'll be looking for the exit and in some cases a main boss encounter, of which there are only a couple. The replica mech suit is a pretty sick boss encounter and the Nightcrawlers are a well-designed threat. The enemy AI is also pretty close to the first game, where squads will flank you and figure out various ways of driving you out of cover, or fall back if they see you firmly standing on business. Both expansions are heavy on the action set pieces, with Extraction Point being the standout amongst the two. Perseus Mandate has more scare and hallucination type moments, making it the headier of the two. Combined as a set, you're getting a good bit of action with more or less frights, considering as the point man, not much is stopping you. As the B team F.E.A.R unit, having similar abilities also keep the action dialed as you ransack the ATC data centers. Graphics wise, F.E.A.R Files uses a combination of the Havoc engine and the Lit-Tech engine developed by Monolith Studios. The graphics are about the same as the first entry and has that revered look as things get torn to shreds in a flurry of bullets and vibrational waves. This was a criticism upon release by outlets, considering it looked too similar to the first game. While it doesn't push the graphics much past the original, it does give you a lot more of the same. You get some new environments that weren't seen in the base game, and there's a few levels that look sick as you turn the Nightcrawlers and replica soldiers into a fine red mist. The environments in Extraction Point have some awesome lighting effects and the level of detail seen in the original. The subway level and the second interval in the shipping yard are dope sections in Extraction Point. Perseus Mandate, while not as visually strong as Extraction Point, does have some dynamic areas in the closer you get to the ATC, though you will see a couple reused sections here. Enemies are also mostly the same replica soldiers as the base game, outside of a couple new mech suit bosses and the Nightcrawler faction that looks slightly like the Hellgas from Killzone. There are a few new characters seen here, but again they don't look much different from those you've seen before, despite being new to the story, like the Scarecrows for example. With everything being on the same engine as the first game, it isn't surprising that it's not much of a graphical jump. You still have several cutscenes and radio chatter moments throughout both playthroughs, and these again are about on par with the original, including a few shockingly brutal moments. There are some pretty cool reveals. Even though this is not considered canon, it is still cool to wonder what could have been had this not all been retconned in F.E.A.R 2. Sound-wise, F.E.A.R Files is solid with a soundtrack from the duo of Gabriel Mann and Rebecca Newble. You get similar tunes to those of Nathan Grigg, who composed the base game soundtrack, and these tracks are about what you'd expect from the series. The ambient sound heard through most of the game lets you know that when the music kicks in, a major fight or major scare is right around the corner. Sound effects are solid with similar bites from the base game, along with all of its punch. The bending of time and space and reflex time still sounds awesome, and cutting enemies entwined with slow motion sounds just as crazy as it looks. Explosions make the screen and speakers rumble in spectacular fashion, and each individual weapon sounds pretty sick here too, especially the bigger ones like the minigun and shotgun. There's a lot of voice acting, including Steve Bloom taking the role as Reigns in Perseus Mandate, and no matter what game it is, you can always tell it's him once you hear his voice. Dialogue sequences are mostly okay, with a few standouts between the two expansions, mainly Extraction Point, but again, it doesn't quite get to those crazier moments like the base games, at least not fully. The voice acting is a bit more lively in Extraction Point, and for the amount of development in Perseus Mandate, it doesn't quite hit as well since it's far more disjointed of a narrative. F.E.A.R Files is a solid expansion compilation exclusive to the Xbox 360, and it's interesting that it didn't get a wider release to the PS3 also. These can be played separately on PC, but overall is a decent package deal. Both games in tandem are solid despite not hitting all the same notes as the base game, but still has a fun, albeit short set of experiences to play through, even if the story doesn't connect canonically to the sequels. You can certainly have some fun here with this one, and despite the criticisms of Perseus Mandate, both are far from bad expansions, but Extraction Point was the more fun and complete of the two. If you're a fan of the F.E.A.R series, if you see this at your local game shop, it's definitely worth playing for another helping of an already solid baseline experience. F.E.A.R Files hits an 8 out of 10 and comes recommended to fans of the franchise, and fans of FPS or horror games, since this is a lot more of that OG F.E.A.R experience. It's a good FPS to play, especially among the Xbox 360 catalog of games, and while I can understand the criticisms people had about this back then, it's still an awesome playing and looking FPS game for the 7th generation of consoles. Despite it being a 360 exclusive, the price isn't too crazy, with loose copies going for around $24 loose, and complete copies going for around $34 for the NTSC region. PAL copies are a little bit cheaper, usually being about $27 USD at the time of this recording. If you're into horror games or FPS hybrids, this is definitely worth a try. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, that's awesome, glad to use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more commentaries and reviews coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.